Welcome to Black Light History, your daily dose of births, deaths, and events in African American history. I'm your host, Big A. It's July 14th. I'm glad you're here. Well, let's get into it. The gentleman's agreement in Major League Baseball was an unwritten rule between owners not to use black players. A small number of blacks had made high minor league teams. On this day in 1887, the International League owners voted 6-4 not to sign any other black players. Baseball's color barrier would not be broken for another 60 years with the signing of Jackie Robinson in 1947. Today we remember the father of the Underground Railroad, William Still. Born free in 1921 in New Jersey, he was the youngest of 18 children. Still would move to Philadelphia as an adult and began working at the Pennsylvania Anti-Slavery Society. He would use his business connections and society members to help conduct the former enslaved to freedom. Still would work with other notable abolitionists like Harriet Tubman. He kept meticulous logs of the people on the railroad in hopes to help the former enslaved find their families. Still helped over 649 people gain their freedom. He would publish a book in 1879 about his work. As a businessman, Still owned a stove store, a coal distribution company, and owned Liberty Hall, the largest public hall in the U.S. owned by a black man. Still would establish a YMCA for black children in Philadelphia. Even after the Civil War, Still stayed active in the Colored National Convention. Established in 1832, the convention was an annual meeting to discuss improving the well-being of blacks in America. Still would pass away on this day in 1902 at the age of 80. On this day in 1922, 62-year-old Jake Davis was lynched in Miller County, Georgia. His killing was the 38th lynching in the U.S. that year. Davis had a relationship with a 28-year-old white woman, Ethel Skittle. Skittle had had Davis's child. When it was discovered, a mob of white people found Davis and hung him from a tree. The local newspaper, The Liberal, would write, "Hundreds of citizens throughout the county regret this lynching. Many have said she was guiltier than was Jake." Today we remember Olympic gold medal winning long jumper, Willie Steele. Born on this day in 1923, Steele was drafted into the Army during World War II, serving in Africa and Italy. After his decorated service, Steele would attend San Diego State University. He would win 2 NCAA championships in his career. In 1948, Steele would go to the London Olympic Games, and despite a leg injury, he would win the gold medal with a 25-foot 8-inch jump. He would move to Oakland and later become the director in the Parks and Recreations Department. Steele would be inducted into the National Track and Field Hall of Fame in 2009. He would pass in 1989 at the age of 66. Happy 92nd birthday to the oldest living former NFL player, Rosie Greer. A brother of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity and a Penn State All-American defensive tackle, Greer was drafted by the New York Giants and would win an NFL championship in 1956. The 3-time All-Pro was one of presidential candidate Robert Kennedy's bodyguards the night he was assassinated in 1968 by Sirhan Sirhan. Greer would tackle the gunman and wrestle the gun away. In his next chapter in life, Greer would become an actor, making cameos in numerous television shows from the 60s to throughout the 80s. Today we remember the golfer Lee Elder. Born on this day in 1934, Elder was drafted into the Army in 1959. It is then, as part of the Special Services Unit, he was able to develop his golf game. Elder would discharge in 1961, and because the PGA was for whites only, he'd have to join the smaller UGA Tour. Elder would win 18 out of 22 tournaments on that tour. The color ban would be lifted from the PGA, and Elder would win his tour card in 1968. After his first tour win in 1974, Lee Elder would be the first black golfer invited to play in the Masters tournament. He would miss the cut that year, but the impact of him playing was obvious. In 1979, Elder would become the first black man to qualify for the Ryder Cup team. Elder would win 4 tour events in his career. At age 50, he would join the Senior Tour and would win 8 total events there. Lee Elder would pass in November of 2021 at the age of 81. Happy 84th birthday to activist and professor Maulana Karenga. Karenga, an educator in African American Studies, holds a PhD in Leadership and Human Behavior and a second in Political Science. In 1966, he would create the Pan-African holiday of Kwanzaa. Karenga's goal was to give African Americans a holiday to celebrate themselves and their heritage. Karenga has written several books and is currently the Department Chair of Africana Studies at California State University at Long Beach. On this day in 1943, the United States government made agricultural inventor George Washington Carver's childhood home a national monument in Diamond, Missouri. It is the first national park dedicated to an African American. The park currently has an educational center and 140 acres of prairie grassland. On this day in 1968, Hank Aaron would hit his 500th career home run in a 4-2 Atlanta Braves victory over the San Francisco Giants. Aaron would eventually eclipse Babe Ruth's home record of 714. Happy 40th birthday to Hall of Fame cornerback Darrelle Revis. The former Pitt Panther was the first-round draft pick of the New York Jets in 2007. Revis would so epitomize the definition of a lockdown corner that going against him was called being on Revis Island. His 2009 season will probably never be surpassed by a cornerback ever again. Revis faced a Hall of Fame or All-Pro receiver 9 times that season. Not a single one got more than 35 yards in a game. Revis allowed only 46 receptions, 465 yards, and 3 touchdowns for the entire 2009 season. A 4-time All-Pro, and with 29 career interceptions, Revis was named to the NFL's 2010's All-Decade team. Revis would win 1 Super Bowl in his career while with the New England Patriots in 2014. On this day in 1988, rock group Living Colour released the second single off their debut album, Live It, Cult of Personality. The hard rock song had a political message that more fits today's climate than that of '88. Cult of Personality would peak at number 13 on the Hot 100. It won a Grammy Award, and the music video won 2 MTV Music Video Awards. On this day in 1999, the R&B group Destiny's Child released their sophomore studio album, The Writing's on the Wall. The album was driven by the singles Bills, Bills, Bills and Say My Name. It would become 8-time certified platinum, selling over 7 million copies in the US alone. Peaking at number 5 on the Hot 200, the album would earn the group an American Music Award and a Soul Train Music Award in 2000. At the same 1948 London Olympic Games that Willie Steele won his gold medal in the long jump, the U.S. had its first female African American to win an Olympic gold medal. Alice Coachman, a Tuskegee Institute and Alabama State College graduate, would go to the games and win a gold medal with a 5'6" high jump. She would be the only female American gold medal winner at the London Games. Because the 1940 and 44 games were canceled due to World War II, London would be Coachman's only Olympics. Upon returning to the United States, Coachman became a celebrity, attending parades and meeting President Truman and former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. Along with former Olympian Jesse Owens, she would become a spokesperson for Coca-Cola. Coachman is an honorary member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority and dedicated her life to educating young people. On this day in 2014, Alice Coachman Davis would leave us at the age of 90. She is included in both the U.S. National Track and Field and U.S. Olympic Halls of Fame. On this day in 2015, writer Ta-Nehisi Coates released his New York Times best-selling book, Between the World and Me. Coates presents the book as a letter to his then teenage son about the true history of blacks in America, weaving history and personal experiences into a narrative that is truly grounded and emotional. The book would win the National Book Award for nonfiction. Today is one of many books the far right is trying to ban from libraries. Today we remember former undisputed lightweight world champion Pernell Whitaker. The Norfolk, Virginia native won the 1984 lightweight boxing gold medal at the Los Angeles Olympics. Whitaker for close to a decade dominated the middleweight divisions of boxing. Not only was he the undisputed lightweight champ, but he would also win the IBF light welterweight championship, the WBC welterweight championship, and the WBA light middleweight championship in his career. With a career record of 40 wins and 4 losses, Whitaker would have some big controversial fights against the likes of Julio Cesar Chavez, Oscar De La Hoya, and Felix Trinidad. Sadly, Whitaker would die on this day in 2019. While crossing the street in Virginia Beach, he was struck by a vehicle, receiving multiple blunt force traumas. He was only 55 years old at the time of his death. And that concludes today's events. If you've enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe to the channel. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Substack. And remember, African American history is American history. So join us tomorrow as we shine a light on Black Light history.